So I want to share with you a few techniques that I think will be beneficial to you. One of the things I see a lot when it comes to just everyone's performance is that people don't perform at all. They have such low quality performance. They'll spend whole days and get nothing done. Or maybe they'll get a little bit done, but they could have gotten a lot done. I was sitting there watching this video. This guy named Andrew Tate, he had this course out, and I took the course. It was actually fantastic. And he was saying, in a lot of companies, in a lot of jobs, a lot of people in general, they're fucking lazy and they don't get much done. They move very slowly. You give them a task, you give them a project, and it takes forever to complete the project. Now, I found this to be true even before I took his course. Back when I was in college, I created this program called College Conqueror. And a part of College Conqueror, it was supposed to give you different skills, different techniques to improve yourself, especially if you're a college student. Specifically, if you're a college student. And one of the sort of key concepts that I kept bringing up in a lot of the different content that I created was sort of the idea of Parkinson's law. And for those of you, if you're watching this and you're not familiar with Parkinson's law basically states that you get a task done based on the amount of time you give yourself. So for example, if you say to yourself, I want to clean my room. If you give yourself all day to clean your room, it will take you all day to clean your room. Now, if you say, I'll give myself an hour to clean my room, you'll find a way to get your room clean in an hour. Now, obviously there's nuance with that rule. Obviously there's some things that you can't do like super quickly because it's physically impossible. If you say I'm going to build a desk, if I'm going to build a building in like a day, obviously that's not possible because it's just not. But for the most part, a lot of people kind of fall into that whole idea of Parkinson's law. They'll set a deadline that's just too far out. It's too much time that they give themselves, and they waste time just getting something done. So the reason why I bring this up is because in this video, I want to give you a few different techniques to sort of 10x your productivity, to be more productive. I sort of gave you one just now by even telling you about Parkinson's law. Now that you know about that, you should be applying that. But I'm going to give you 4 more techniques, 4 more ideas to 10x your productivity. The first thing you should do is you need to have a goal. Now, you've heard that before, I'm sure. A lot of people out there say you need to have a goal. And it stuns me how few people have goals. Like, you'll sit there with somebody and say, what is your goal for A, B, and C? What do you wish to do about A, B, and C? And they'll say like, oh, I don't know. And that blows my mind because to me, having a goal is effectively it's like having a treasure map and having the X on it. If someone just gave you a map and said, go find the treasure, you're sitting there, you're going to be like, well, I don't know where to go. I don't know where to start. You gave me a map of like a whole city. Like, where am I even supposed to begin? Do I have any clues? Is there a hint? Like, no, just go find the treasure. Well, then it's discouraging and you're not going to do it, right? To me, having a goal is like an X. It's an X on the map. Even if you don't know specifically where to go, the X will give you the general vicinity of where to go. It keeps the idea, it keeps the objective in mind. Does that make sense? So first things first, you need to have a goal and you need to stick to the goal. Now, I've done videos about how to set goals, exactly what makes a goal effective, but I think the main thing to consider when you're setting that goal is that the goal needs to be specific and there needs to be a deadline. Like I said, Parkinson's law. It needs to have a deadline, and it needs to have a deadline that's not too far out in the future. It needs to be relatively close. So that would be the first thing. Set a goal. Second thing, you need to focus. A lot of people, I'll sit there and talk to them. They don't know how to fucking focus. Like, it blows my mind. People can't focus. You know, you'll sit there and this happens a lot of times. Like, some people might think I'm rude, but I'll go do work. I'll sit there and I'll go do work, and someone will like knock on the door when I'm working. They'll try to call me. They'll call back like 5 times, and I keep hitting decline. They'll see me on my laptop, or they'll see me talking, and they'll come up and just start like having a conversation, and it'll be about nonsense, nothing productive, nothing that benefits me. And I think the reason why they do this is because so many people don't know how to focus. They don't understand the idea of focusing. So if you're trying to focus, they'll prevent you from focusing because they don't know how to focus. They don't know what it is. So I bring this up just because when you're trying to achieve a goal, you need to have focus. And when I say focus, I mean lock yourself in a room for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever, however long it takes you to get at least a good portion of the task done, and then do it. That's really it. You just need to do it. And you need to sit there and do it. You need to utilize a certain amount of time to get the task done. Now, one of the ways I like to do this, there's an app called Pomodoro. It's an app and a technique at the same time, whichever you find. To me, Pomodoro technique is a good way, especially if you're beginning, to focus. And basically what the Pomodoro technique is, you set an alarm for 45 minutes. You have 3 rounds of this. Every 45 minutes, you take a 5-minute break. Like I said, there's 3 rounds. After the 3rd round, instead of taking that 5-minute break, you take a 15 or 30-minute break. And I like this technique because I think it helps me, it creates a certain degree of urgency, if that makes sense. If you know that there's a timer counting down, it almost forces you to get as much done within that time frame as possible. Because if you don't, you feel guilty, you feel bad about yourself, you kind of think to yourself, oh, I just wasted like 45 minutes of my day just sitting here on YouTube doing nothing. So it makes that time more apparent. It puts it at the forefront of your brain, if that makes sense. So, focus and use the Pomodoro technique. The third thing you need to do is you need momentum. Now, when I say momentum, what I mean is that a lot of people, when they get up, when they start the day, it takes them forever to actually get anything productive done. And I think the way you start your day overall impacts how the entire day will go. So for me personally, to create momentum, what I do when I wake up, I immediately try to get something done. For me, the thing I try to get done is go to the gym. Because to me, it checks off a few boxes. 1, it wakes me up. 2, it keeps me healthy. 3, it builds momentum. And that's ultimately what I want to happen. You want to build that momentum. You want to start the day with an activity or task that isn't super challenging, because you don't want to make it too difficult to actually get it done. You don't want to make it off-putting, because obviously you can't build momentum if you don't do the task. But it needs to be challenging enough so that your brain feels rewarded when it gets done. Does that make sense? And so that's one example of a way to build momentum. Some other things I did in the past, I'd wake up and I might journal for about 10 minutes. Journaling is a good way to build momentum. You're writing, you're getting something done, you're using your brain. You're getting enough of a dopamine hit by accomplishing a task, but it's not an overly complicated, it's not an overly difficult task. It's within your control, but it does create some kind of productivity. So it does build momentum. There's plenty of things you can do to kind of build momentum. I would say those are probably the 2 easiest things, either going to the gym, which isn't super easy, but over time it gets easier, or journaling. One more thing you can probably do, read a few pages of a book. Read 5 to 10 pages. You've accomplished a goal. You've trained your brain a little bit. You've created some progress. You've learned something new, hopefully, and you've built momentum by doing that. So, like I said, number 3, build momentum. You need momentum to get stuff done. You need momentum to ultimately complete your goals. You need momentum to be productive. And the 4th and final thing you need is speed. Now, speed to me is one of those concepts. It sounds super simple, but it blows my mind just how few people truly understand the concept of speed. And I'm going to be honest, the whole idea of speed is something I just kind of this year learned about. And it's something I just recently started to try to utilize to the best of my ability. Now, when I say speed, what I mean is that you need to decrease the time from an idea to action. Does that make sense at all? So some people, for example, they'll say, let's say you're a marketer and you want to start a webinar. You're like, I want to do a webinar. I want to shoot this video and put this webinar out on YouTube. Okay, you have the idea. Now, when are you going to get it done? Maybe next week. Well, that's slow. Why would you do that? There's no reason you can't start today. Even if you don't know what you're going to say in the webinar, you can always outline the webinar. You can always come up with ideas. You can brainstorm. You can do research. Do it now. Why wait? And I say this, and it sounds obvious, and it sounds simple, but most people do this. Most people have an idea, and instead of just starting the idea, doing it immediately, using speed, they waste time. They take their sweet time to get it done. And because they do that, it never actually gets done, which means they don't ultimately make progress. Does that make sense to you at all? So those are the 4 things that, in my opinion, will help you 10x your overall productivity. Number 1, you need a goal. You need to know where the hell you're going. Number 2, you need to focus. Too many people will try to knock off your focus. Too many people will try to distract you. Too many things out there will distract you. Social media, TV, everything. Cut it out. Be focused. Number 3, you need momentum. Get up, start the day off, get something done. Keep that momentum going the entire day. An object in motion stays at motion, typically. Number 4 is speed. You need to do things quickly. When you come up with an idea, stop making excuses, stop procrastinating, get it done quickly, because that speed will give you more momentum, and that'll help you get more done throughout the day, which ultimately makes you a more productive human being. Hopefully that helped. Hopefully that made sense. As always, leave a comment or shoot me a DM if you need any help with anything. Peace.